Okay, you can check out the page. All right. Then I will send you the exact link. Then you can paste in your group.
So should we do it now or later?
Okay. Hold on. Okay. You can just paste this link into your Facebook group.
Into the Facebook group.
Yeah, because this is a public view.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are already live.
Okay.
Yeah, just take your time. Because I know that this is very new.
I'm learning technical stuff from Coach John.
Yes. In the meantime, I can just say hi to the parents because I know that right now many parents are stopping work even at home. So you want to check out our Facebook page for something more relaxing. And today we are going to talk about how parents can relieve stress. Yeah. Okay, Sophie, you can just try out. Yeah.
Yes, I'm trying to open my Facebook.
Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. In the meantime, I'll just say hi to parents. Hello, Shirley. Hi. Mommy Shirley is here.
So, Coach John, do I put the entire link into
yes.
a post? Like a
yes,
post?
You can edit the post later. Yes, you can edit the post later.
Okay, this is interesting. You learn something new every day.
Okay.
All right. So
Let's start, yeah, Sophie? Shall we start?
So do I have to keep my screen open or do I shut this down?
Once you have posted it, you can just
okay. I can close it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. Hi parents. This is Coach John here from Learning Out the Box, and thank you so much for your patience because today we have a special guest and also a good friend of mine, and her name is Sophie, and she is a coach who helps people to manage their emotions. Am I right, Sophie?
Yes, that's right. I teach professionals to, master their mind and build more mental, emotional fitness.
Now, would you be able to tell us more about your work? And I think what would be helpful for parents is how did you get into this profession?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll be happy to share. So what I do, I'm a MAP certified practitioner and also a trainer with the institute. So I'm a MAP. I use something called the MAP method, and basically it kind of teaches people to train their own brains and their own mind, and help to build mental and emotional fitness for themselves, which is really, really important nowadays, especially as we're going through this pandemic and there's so many changes and transitions. Having a resilient mind is really important. So I work with kids to moms to professionals, like people who are in CEOs or senior management positions. But my passion is really working with career moms, where I help them to really, balance work and life so that they can enjoy more time and fulfillment with their family. And I also run like a mindfulness center for moms and moms to be. So it's called the Hearty Moms. And also there's a group that I'm really passionate about, which is COVID-19 support for working moms. So we've got like a very nice community there, and focusing a lot on mental emotional wellness for working moms. So how did I get onto this profession? Well, I'm actually an engineer by training.
Really? Same as me. Yeah.
Yay. Yeah, and I was attending a business mastermind, and I met this mental age coach, and she said, she did things that really wow me. Like, she helped the business people to really switch their mindset, to really overcome things that they are fearful of, or even like just to shift their perspective to see that, there's another way to solve an issue. There's another way to strategize. So it was so effective. I was doing things that I never did before. So when she said, I'm going to start an online course. I'm like, I'm going to apply, I'm going to join this because I need to learn that, right, for myself. But as I went on to learn it, I realized how powerful it was, and it was more than what I thought it was. So I started to work with my own family members, and then with some moms I knew, and then slowly I had a lot of referrals, a lot of moms who came and said, my child has this problem, because they saw the success with my own child who had her own kind of emotional issues. And yeah, so it just grew more and more by referral. And that's where I am today. I've become really passionate about this because I've seen how people transform. And that's always something that motivates you, I think.
Wonderful. And when you share, I can really sense your passion in working with people and also helping moms. Yeah. So from your experience, what are some of the common issues that parents come to you with?
Yeah, so a lot of them point to their kids. And interestingly, last week, I ran a poll in the group to find out what types of stress parents face.
Yeah.
And I thought it might be things like, work and finance because of what we're currently going through, or, lack of time and things like that. So I asked things like spouse relationship, taking care of elderly parents, or kids' education. Surprisingly, the one that came out tops was kids' behavior. So, if any of the parents can identify with that, if they agree that, kids' behavior is one of your top stresses, yeah, feel free to say yes, to affirm that. I was a bit surprised myself, but it seems like, yeah, this is something that's on the top of the scale. And the thing is, it's a vicious cycle. If parents are stressed, they create that stress with the child, and then the child gets stressed, and then it goes back to the parents. So it's really, an interesting vicious cycle. And what I did was I looked into stress. I'm like, why is it that people are choosing child's behavior as the main stress factor? Why is it that parents are choosing that?
Yeah.
And I found out that if you have one child that at least have a difficult temperament, it can be very stressful. Or one child who's got medical, emotional, or kind of behavior problems, becomes very stressful for the parent as well. And I actually experienced that myself, which I'll share a little bit later.
Sure.
Also, if you have low levels of social support, so especially if you're a single parent, where you have little support from the people around you, or if you have a young child, and that's quite common. I find a lot of parents coming to me like they have very young kids who are kindy, preschool. Although I always think that as the child grows bigger, the older the child, the bigger the problem. But I think for young children, they really take out a lot of your energy and attention because they're not able to be independent, and you always have to keep an eye on them somehow, make sure that they're safe and all that kind of thing. So having young kids can be stressful for parents. So my personal experience, when my second daughter was 2 years old, she actually was very, very ill, to the extent that she was constantly in and out of the hospital.
Oh dear.
And the doctors couldn't find out what was wrong with her. So they basically just said, okay, she's like statistic, we're just gonna try everything, try this medicine, try that medicine, and just bring her in. And it was always, every time she went into hospital, she was like fighting for her life because she was vomiting so much, she was dehydrated. So as a parent, it was very, very stressful for me, and that happened like every single month.
Oh dear.
So yeah, within that 1-2 years, I think I aged like 10 years. I was really bad. And one of the characteristics that I think I noticed was I was very withdrawn. So I didn't, I wasn't, I was so stressed. I was only focused on her because I just needed my child to survive, to get through. Like sometimes you look at your child and your child is lying there and not moving, just staring at you with no expression. It's like, it's really painful. And you think, I would rather that she be throwing a tantrum on the floor for 45 minutes than she lying on the bed lifeless. And that was my child. She was not only ill, she had a really difficult temperament. She was one child who would just throw herself on the floor and throw a tantrum for 45 minutes. And I never could figure out how I could help her, because my first child was so easy to care and had no issues at all, had a very nice gentle temperament. And my second child was like so I was quite taken aback, but very, very stressed out at that time. And because I was so focused on her and withdrawn to myself, I think I neglected the rest of my family members, not just my spouse. I think even my older child. And so my relationship with my older child started to drift further and further away. And, until the point that I realized, like I kind of felt like I lost her. And it became like I lost two kids. I lost the first child because, lost in a way, emotionally lost the first child, the second child because she was ill. And the second one, my first child because, I didn't have time for her. So it's kind of a round thing. Yeah, so that's what really stress can do. So at that point, I didn't know too much, but I'll share with you later on how I got out of this. There's way, if you're stressed and you notice it, then there's things that you can do to help yourself. Firstly, go ahead.
Yeah, and the part for parents is, yes, as adults, we know that we are stressed out. We know how to cope. Yeah, but I think that what struck me most is many of us, even myself, may not know that we are stressed out. Yeah. So what are some of the telltale signs experience that is like a warning kind of thing, like a red flag waving at you, saying that, hey, parents, is it that you're feeling stressed out because you're acting this way, or you're behaving this way? So what are some of the common telltale signs for adults like us to take notes of our own behavior?
It's definitely a great question. So firstly, what is stress? I think stress is when you get distressed, when you experience that and you feel like you can't cope, especially as a parent, like you're like pulling your hair out at your wits' end. That's really stress. And if you want to define it even further, it means that the demands on you, what you have on your plate, is so great that you don't have the resources and the capabilities to cope with them. Like for example, what I was going through, like I didn't have the answers to my problem. I didn't know, and I was lack of sleep as well. So I just almost really went crazy. So how do you identify it? I think three things actually happen when you are stressed. Besides, some are really obvious things like your mood changes, maybe you don't even sleep well. But I think the biggest, or some of the biggest ones that really affect your parenting is you become less sensitive. Meaning you become less sensitive to the people around you, and especially to your own children. And that's not very helpful. So we can see the example with my older child. I became, less sensitive towards her. I didn't even notice how she was feeling. And so she had to grow up really quick. Like she was, well, thankfully she was a very mature and independent child, but because of that distance, I couldn't tune into her thoughts, her feelings, and her needs. So kind of lost connection in the bond. There's actually a research called the brain-to-brain synchrony.
Brain drain.
Like synchronization.
Oh, okay.
What they did was they put like a child on the parent's lap, and then they hooked all these devices on their heads to observe, what happens between the parent and the child. And they found that, when the parent and the child are connected and they're gazing at each other, they don't even have to speak, but their thinking is so similar that the same part of the brain actually lights up. So it shows that there is this, connection between parent and child when you are both in tune with each other. And the same thing they did was to bring older children and parents. They got them to engage in cooperative tasks, and they found the same thing, that the same areas were lighting up together because they were, thinking about the same things. And then they did this on strangers, and they found the same thing that happened. And so what they concluded was that, parents who are in tune with their kids actually are very connected. And then they did a further test with parents that were stressed, and they found that they didn't light up in the same way. So so the problem of being, a less sensitive parent is that when you are less sensitive, you are less responsive to your own child in terms of caring for them. And, a responsive, caring parent is helpful for the child. It's important for the child's health, their growth, their development, and how they're going to cope naturally with things around them. So I think, being when you realize that you're, not even noticing what's going on around you, when you're, not even sensitive to what's happening. And of course, you have, huge reactions to things. And the thing could be very tiny, but it might just explode like a volcano, and you're like, oh my God, how did I do that? So that's when you're stressed. right? So two things can happen. Either you become less sensitive and actually withdrawn and not responsive, or you overreact. And they did the same. There was another research that they did as well. It's called the stranger situation research. So what they did was they put this child with a stranger, without the parents. The child was alone with a stranger, and that caused kind of a high anxiety for the child. And they put the child back to the parent in a room full of toys, and they observed how the parent was interacting with the child and playing with the child. So for a parent who was calm and peaceful and not feeling stressed, they found that the parent was able to help the child bounce back to being calm and happy again. And the whole play experience was very positive. On the other hand, parents who said that they were stressed, when the child came back to them with that kind of stress and anxiety, instead of being able to support the child and calm them down and return them back to a state of calm, the parent was actually being harsh and hostile to the child and feeling the child's distress and escalating everything instead. So that's when you get the case where the parent overreacts. Like small thing becomes like really, really big. On the other hand, there's also this group of parents who are a bit more burnt out. And for these parents, they didn't even engage with their child emotionally in terms of playing. So then you see the two things that really happen when you are stressed as a parent. Firstly, you are not sensitive. You are emotionally unresponsive to a child. And then the other spectrum is you blow up like a volcano out of nowhere.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So this is these are the two ways that you probably can tell, like, why am I suddenly overreacting? What's happening, and why am I losing interest in things? Why is my sleep being affected? So the thing about parents being stressed really affects the children, and they found that this starts in the womb. When a mother is stressed and she's carrying the baby, the stress hormones actually get transferred to the child. So when the child is born, the child actually is the infant is more feisty, cries a lot more difficult to settle, and maybe even colicky. And I found that with my two pregnancies as well. With my first child, I was very relaxed as a new mother, right? Happy and everything. With the second child, I was so into my work and looking after a younger kid, and then trying to get my projects done before I delivered the second child, and I was quite stressed. Actually, when my second child came out, she was just like that, like crying, and like, why is she crying all the time? Like, why can't she be like her older sister? And when later on when I learned all this, I realized, there is a connection there. In fact, they say like even babies who are already born, when they hear their parents fighting, they actually get spikes of cortisol and all that. So they do feel that stress hormone. They do feel all these things. So stress on the parent really rubs off on the child in that way.
Sure. Yeah, in a sense, when I hear you share, and I also reflect upon my life, and there are times in life that I thought that how I wish that stress will go away. Yeah, but I know that stress is here to stay. Yeah, so in the event of having stress, so what are the things that we can actually say to ourselves? Because I also caught things like some of the parents actually, they saw that their kids are stressed out and they feel stressed out as well, but they are able to calm down their child, versus another parent who identified that their child are stressed out, but they also get even more stressed out themselves and blow up like a volcano. So what are the differences in terms of choices that these parents make for two different scenarios?
Okay. Well, let's just talk about how to deal with stress as a parent, because I think once you can deal with that, then how you treat your child can be like really easy, and how you're going to calm your stressed child out is really easy, comes naturally. But if you're not even calm yourself, if you're already stressed, I think no matter what people are telling you, like the steps you can do or whatever, it's just not going to work.
Sure.
Because your whole mind is like already occupied. So I think the most important thing is, if you realize that you're stressed, firstly identify the origin of it. What exactly is the problem that's keeping you stressed? It's as easy as that. Are you stressed out because your toddler is always throwing a tantrum, or your teen is not listening to you, or because you're sleep deprived, or you're working from home and having to look after a young child, or is it just work stress? Like, identify that problem, because once you know the cause of it, you can then try to find a solution for it. But you can't solve the problem if you don't even know what the issue is. And then your whole life is just cycling through the same issues over and over again. And then more issues pile up and everything gets bigger and bigger. But before you do that, it's also important to look into yourself, which means what is your own mental state, your own mental emotional state. Like an army that's going out for battle, they would prepare themselves, like they will train, they will maintain their rifles, or so in order for you to solve your problem, you need to have clarity and also a good state, both mentally and physically. So I think a very common word people always use is like self-care. To me, self-care, the word self-care is a bit overrated, because I think if we tell women self-care, we're gonna like, oh yeah, go for spa, go for holiday, I don't know, shopping spree. And in the last 2 months when we were having our COVID, that was really no options for us, right? But I think self-care is as simple as just taking care of your basic needs. For example, I mean, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is like, are you eating well? Are you even having enough sleep? Are you drinking enough water? Are you hydrated? Are you even putting aside time to exercise, get some sunshine, go out in nature? That's really basic things about human life. But I can tell you that these were not even options for me when I was super stressed. And you tend to think that you're a superwoman or superman, and you can not do one of these things, but they are the very things that you really need, because if you're not well, you can't help the other person. It's like on an aeroplane, when there is an emergency, you always put that mask on for yourself before you're, the younger child or younger passenger. A lot of times we forget and we just, okay, put it on, the younger one, and we forget about ourselves. That's kind of a normal human response, but we have to really tell that to ourselves. Have I taken care of my basic needs? And then notice and know what you're overwhelmed or fed up about. Like, what is it? Are you burnt out? Are you overworked? Because that affects your well-being, like, internally and externally. Externally in your parenting, internally as a person. And then know that if you're overwhelmed, it's not a bad thing, but you just have to find out how to solve it. So then the next thing is get information. I think if you want to solve a problem, you need to find out information about it. Because the more you know, the more you can be competent and feel secure, and you can feel empowered to find a solution. When you don't know, you always think that there's no solution and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. So in my case, I was told that there is nothing that doctors could do for my daughter. So it's basically telling me, sorry, like, we can't help you. But I never gave up. I kept learning, I kept reading, I kept researching. I joined groups, I asked around, I asked people, I tried alternative methods, whatever it was that I could support her. And I did find the solution in the end, and she's really, she's totally out of that illness. For many years already. Yeah. So you have to find that information. And I think one of the best ways now is really to join groups, because that's where you can get support. Like your wonderful group, where you provide a lot of great resources and content for your parents, supporting them, teaching them how to teach their kids. Joining groups can be a great way, and there's plenty of parenting groups there that can help you. And of course, like if you want a group that's more catered to mental emotional well-being for working moms, then there's also my group, which John can share later on if people want to join that. So that's about finding information. So we've got finding out what the problem is, taking care of your basic needs, and getting information. And the last one is learn relaxation techniques. I think we can't, this is so important. We can't, we've never learned this in school. And I think most of our parents don't know about, this kind of relaxation techniques, but it's getting more and more common, especially with what they call mindfulness and breathing. I think there's plenty of such apps out there, relaxation apps and YouTube. And one of them that I really like is the Calm app, CALM. I think it's free. But the most important thing I think everyone needs to learn is how to breathe. I know we breathe all the time. But it makes a difference when you are really feeling stressed or anxious. You need to learn how to do deep breathing, because it calms you down, because it triggers a nuance in your brain and it tells your body that it's time to relax. So earlier today, I had a call from a client overseas, and my client was going into an interview, and he was
Mm.
feeling a little anxious. So we, over the phone, we just did breathing and some kind of mind tweaking methods, and it was as simple as that. So when you're upset with your child or anything, stop, deep breathe, and think before you react. And most people react before they breathe, like and then they go, it's a natural body response, right? You start to become a monster or a dragon, and you breathe first before you react. Then you don't have to, become a monster. So yeah, there's many ways to breathe.
Would you be able to share one simple technique that parents can breathe? Because probably right now, with PSA coming in 3 months' time, and I think most of the parents out there are facing high tension. Yeah,
Yes.
so probably can share one technique, and I think it's something that should be simple enough that even parents can teach their children at home.
Okay, there's several. So there's one called candle breathing, there's the box breathing, that's 4-4, and what I'm going to show is maybe the hand breathing. Yeah, box breathing is quite common, right? They have like 4 counts in, 4 counts out, and you hold it. So I'm going to teach you like the hand one, because I really like this, and this is something that I think kids will like.
Okay.
So what happens is when you are moving your finger up on one side of your thumb, you're breathing in, and then as you move down, you're breathing out, and then trace the next one. Breathe in, and then when you go down, just breathe out, and then again, and breathe out, and then breathing in, and breathing out, and then again, last one, breathing in, and breathing out. It's just simple as that. But I really like this because it's kind of like, it helps you to count 5 breaths. It helps you to time it in and out. It's a visual thing. And when you connect with yourself, when you're touching yourself, it's kind of like I'm caring for you. I'm caring for each. It's like that kind of it makes you feel very comfortable. And I think for kids, they can relate to that because maybe they can't count, but maybe when you do this, it's like, okay, it's like a play for them, like spider going up and down, spider going up and down, but it's just breathing in and out. So yeah, just do deep breathing, tracing your fingers. I think that's a very easy way.
Yeah, this is very nice, and I think I can teach my kids. What about, say, if let's say a child is in the exam hall and he wants to do it, because if he does this in the exam hall, I think probably all his friends will be looking at him and wondering what he's doing. And I think even for adults, yes, we can do this in the privacy of our own home. Yeah,
yes.
I think it would be quite a struggle if the parent is feeling anxious and yet he thinks that this is the only way to do it in front of his colleagues. Yeah. So from my experience, what are the other ways to replace this hand movement?
Okay, so there's something I like called the candle breathing.
Okay.
So it's kind of like imagining that you have a candle in front of you. So if there's someone in front of you and you don't have to do it, like so just imagine there's a candle in front of you.
Yeah. Okay.
And you just have to breathe in with your nose and breathe out. But when you breathe out and blow out, your aim is to flicker the flame on the candle.
Okay.
So the flame is dancing, but it's not going to go off, because if you're going, then the candle is going to go out, right? So then there's no more flame there. So what you want to do is control breathing. So it's just breathing in through your nose, and when you breathe out, it's very controlled. It's enough to flicker the flame like a birthday cake, but not blowing it out yet because it's not time to blow it out. And just do a couple of that breath, like 3 to 5 is good. At the end of it, you can blow out the flame. But before that, control that. So I think controlled breathing is another way of really bringing, helping you to relax and just bringing your mind to a very calm state. So that's probably something you can do as well.
Yes, I think this will help for anyone to do in any situation.
Yes.
Yeah, and I like the parts that you mentioned, that nowadays the parents are like in the past, having supports not just in physical setting but also in WhatsApp groups, and also with friends, with young kids as well in Facebook groups. Yeah, and I know that there are parents out there who are also looking out for their fellow friends with young kids. And recently, I also heard of a parent saying that to another mom that probably you are feeling stressed out. But the first thing that the parents said is, it's not me, it's my kid. Yeah. So under this scenario, what do you think are some of the ways that parents, friends can do to support their parents' friends who are stressed out, and yet they are pointing, no, it's not me, it's my child. Go and fix my child. It's not me. I'm feeling okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's such a common thing.
Yes, it's common, which is why I won't say it. I want to ask.
Yeah, most of the parents who come to me and say my child has a problem, they're pointing like my child has a problem. Go talk to my child, go give that session or therapy or whatever to my child. They are the
fix
ones.
Fix him, it's not me, fix him.
Yes. And one thing I always say to them is, okay, I will speak to your child, but I also need to have a session with you. I need you to experience what I'm going to be doing with your child.
Okay.
And a lot of times when we work through with them, they're like, oh, actually my child doesn't have an issue anymore, but can I have more sessions with you? So it's a very common thing. It just goes to show that, when you fix your own issues, a lot of things around you can change because you deal with people differently. So what do you do if if you know a friend who is so? I think it's a lot of education. But maybe share your own success, share what you do with your child, invite them to groups that would support them. And I think very important is help them to bring up positive energy, because as a friend, you can do a lot to support your other friends' energy, encourage them to be positive, help them to seek out happy social kind of interactions, go for a walk together, help them to identify what they can be grateful for. I think gratitude is a very big thing, a very important thing to have, to help with your positivity. Because if you can't even see the good in small things, you can't see the good in anything, because you're gonna face negative things, and that's already nothing good about that. So if you can even teach them, just point them up to pay attention to small things, like the child's smile, or physical affection. On this note about physical affection, do you know how many hugs a day a child needs?
Okay, is this a trick question? So if you ask like that, probably the answer is going to be more than 10.
Yes, it is actually. So, there was this family therapist, a couple of years back, and she said that in order for a child to survive, the child needs 4 hugs a day.
Okay.
To maintain a child, it's 8, and for the child to grow, it's 12. So it's really
for the child to grow.
Yeah, for growth. So 12 for growth, 8 for maintenance, and 4 for survival. So which means a child actually needs minimum 4 hugs a day. And I think it's vice versa. I don't think it just applies to a child. I think it applies to an adult, a human. But if you're hugging your child, it's a two-way thing. So I guess that's already a hug for yourself, which you can count. So I think if you can be mindful about that, I think maybe just a simple tip to share with your mom friend. Oh, you need to hug your child how many times a day or whatever. That's going to help them and help you too, because you feel so much better when you hug your child. That kind of bond and connection, the physical connection, it can trigger a lot of things, a lot of good hormones. So yeah, maybe that's one thing you can keep in mind.
And I think for even for myself, because I have 3 girls, and I started to do this when since they were very young. And even right now as a dad, sometimes I do sense that sometimes it's a bit hard, but I just try my best. What about for parents who don't have this kind of family culture or routine to hug children? And you know that being Asian, to hug is it's a taboo thing, and sometimes it's so rare to see a dad hugging their kids, because it's like, no, I'm a dad, and this is not what we do as Asian. So what are the ways to start off this at home? Without feeling awkward?
Yes, I think it's a physical connection thing. I mean, would it be okay for you to even pat their head or shoulder, just to affirm and let them know that you're around and you appreciate them, you acknowledge their presence? And I think one thing I like about you, John, is you're very hands-on in a way that I see that you spend so much quality time with your kids. And I think that's so important. Your kids are very blessed. The kind of projects, amazing projects that you do with them, that's already, that connection that's built there. So you're right. Maybe it's not a hug, but maybe it's that quality time, or just that simple connection of, tapping their hand or just acknowledging them. Yeah, you did well today. Oh, look, you do such a beautiful painting. It feels good for the child, and that builds that connection and bond as well.
So it sounds like it's a connection part. I mean, hug, if it's one of them, you let it be, but also find other ways that you connect uniquely with your child. Sometimes probably it's just going to buy bubble tea or going for an ice cream.
Yeah. And I
or
think
just
when you
watching
go out with the
Netflix.
child, yeah, when you go
So,
out with the child, I think you hold their hand too, right? So it's that kind of connection there. I guess why this 4, 8, and 12 hugs came about was because the therapist herself is from the Western culture, and so maybe that's the way they affirm, love to the child. So probably, what is that language of love that you have with your child, and make sure you have enough of that 4, 8, or 12. Maybe that's enough. And there's different languages of love, right? There's like the service and time, gift or touch, something like this. Yeah, so maybe doing those things are sufficient as well. Equally good.
Great,
Yeah.
great.
So back to the topic of how can parents cope better. I've got two more points actually.
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah. So one of them is a very practical thing, is to make sure that you allow more time to get things done. Which means, I know some people say, so many things. Well, prioritize and find out what is it that is important to do today or right now, because actually a lot of things you don't have to do right now, but you're stressed because you want to do them right now, or you think that you need to do them right now, but actually not really. And I think especially for moms, you always tend to want to do everything. Maybe you don't trust a spouse or a helper to do something right, and they're like, okay, so I do it myself so that I can get it the way I like. But by doing that, you're just giving yourself so many things to do. So I think learning to delegate and not have too many things in a day will also naturally help to reduce stress, because a lot of times stress comes from lack of time, that time pressure. I mean, I feel it myself, even from sometimes day to day, when I have too many things crammed up in a day and my child is trying to ask me a question. Oh, sorry, I only have 5 minutes for you. Obviously, I was like, no, I have so many questions, I can't do it in 5 minutes. Then there is this tussle, like, okay, but can you wait? I'm like, no, I need to know it now because I need to head to my home. I'm like, oh gosh. Yeah. So having enough, just scheduling your time appropriately. I think not having too many things is going to help so much. It's like when you go on a holiday, if you are just having a very tight itinerary, you go from one place to another, you're going to be stressed up. Instead of enjoying your holiday, you'll be stressed up trying to keep up time, oh, now I have to go here, then I need to go here. I need to arrive there before the show starts, and then I need to go there before the sun sets, So it's very stressful. I mean, so yeah, my family, we're just like, okay, we're going to take it easy. We're only going to do 2 things in the day, and the rest we'll just do it if it works. Then we can stop by the side of the road, smell the flowers, or jump into a random park that we see along the way, and the kids can play. Not like, no, you can't play because we have to go to this dinner right now, we've booked it for 7 p.m, we're going to be late. It's stressful in that way. So taking care of the time factor for the day is important. And I think the last thing is also to do with getting help, is actually teach your children and help the children to cope with their own stress, or work out their own differences as siblings, or even empower them to have skills to learn on their own. And I know that this group is really about teaching parents to teach their kids, and that's great. But one thing that parents can teach their kids also is to teach them how to learn independently. And I'm sure you would agree with me that it's important for kids to know how to learn independently as parents, and we need to know the knowledge to help them. But then we can't be helping them for every single question. They need to learn how to learn on their own, how to problem solve, and that's all about math.
Yeah.
How do you solve a problem? How do you solve your study problem? How do you manage your time, plan for your exams? Like, I train my kids from very young that they have to manage their own schoolwork. So primary 1 is, I don't ever check their school bag. I won't look at your timetable. You learn how to do. So I did teach them. I didn't say just do it, but I did teach them how to do it, and then they did that, and they learned to pack. And sometimes they fail. Sometimes they miss out the book. But for me, it's don't call me from school because I'm not bringing it down. So you learn to be responsible, and sometimes you just have to do it that way, and they learn, and they won't repeat it again because they don't want the inconvenience. They don't want the teacher to pick on tell them that they did something wrong. And then same for tests. I don't know if my child has a test until the test paper comes home, because I train them in a way that they will manage their own studies. And I know, like, you just laugh, but it's like, I know that maybe you think some kids can't do it, but actually they can. I don't know, John, when you were growing up, I believe you managed your own work. I did. I don't know about you, but I think children are capable of doing that, but because of the societal pressures, we want certain, I don't know, maybe we feel compelled to help our child more. and we end up helping them, and then the child gets complacent because mommy can help me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy is going to plan my studies for me anyway. Daddy is going to tell me what I need to do to study for my exam, so I don't need to know it. Then it becomes that reliance, and you can do that for primary school, but when you go up to secondary school, you're not going to be able to keep up with 6 or 8 subjects anymore, and the kids are going to be in school until 5, 6, 7 o'clock every day. And if they can't manage their work, if they can't squeeze in that half an hour before their CCA starts to finish their homework, and they expect to come home and have the parents sit next to them, then you're not going to sleep till midnight.
Yep.
So I think just, empowering your child to do certain things, learning how to cope with studies, cope with stress, or, deal with some issues. If we can empower them, that is less stressful for us, because we don't have to be the policeman all the time, like, okay, stop fighting, or you don't have to be the one that, that's teaching them or breathing with them. It's great if you can breathe with them, but if they know the skill, they can do it before you come home from work, instead of by the time you come home, they're already, exploding and already in shreds and pieces. And if they can complete their homework before you come back, then they'll be saying, okay, I just need to ask my mom or dad, how do I answer this question? Because I tried and I don't know. And that's where you come in as a parent to teach them, but not to sit next to them and like, okay, now do question 1, now do question 2, stop playing with your phone, come on, go to question 3. Like, I think like skills like that would really help, the family dynamics. So yeah, and that's so that's mainly what I wanted to share about how you can cope with stress better. It's not just on your own. I think get people to help you. Either you get your spouse, a helper, or someone, or teach your own child to manage that.
And for the past 40 minutes, you have shared many tips. So out of the tips that you have shared, so if a parent wants to act on one, what will be the tip that you say you can do it right now because you can actually use it?
Breathing. I think breathing is the number one thing. We forget to breathe. When we are angry, we're like, and then we actually forget to breathe. So I think, yes, remember to breathe. Breathe first before you react. It's a good skill to have. And, I have that situation in my home quite often. My second child is actually quite reactive. And I find that when I hold my tongue, when I breathe, and I just be silent for a while before I respond to her, we can calm her down much faster. But if I was like what I was in the past, where I would just start screaming my head off or just telling them off, like, what's the problem? Why can't you solve this yourself? Like, why do you have to kick a fuss all the time? We spend much more time trying to calm her down later on. It could be up to like 1 hour because the child is already upset. You are upset. And then you're, parent and child is like, Grr. But when at least one person is calm, the other one can be upset. And then you can kind of like, easier to fight fire, right? And fire, fight fire. It's like, water and fire. You can bring it down faster. So breathing.
So brief, yeah. And in fact, while you're sharing, you reminded me of what my wife did for my girls, because sometimes they also burst because they are angry, and my wife actually told them to breathe. But what I think that she did was amazing, that she actually held on to their hands like a gentle mom, and with the kind of reassured look, just say breathe. So I thought that one actually helps rather than, compared to just breathe.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So
wonderful.
So I thought for the parents who are still watching this, it still goes back to your own unique style in how you manage your kids at home, and also it boils down to the relationship that you have with your child too. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I love what your wife does. That's wonderful. I think holding their hands assures them that you're there. You're not leaving them alone to solve their own issue, that you're still there with them, and you can understand and feel their frustration. And then teaching them to breathe really just calms them down automatically. And instead of being a parent that's reacting and just pushing them aside and screaming, I think your wife has just done a wonderful thing in holding hands. It's a great tip. Love that.
Thanks. So later I will tell my wife that you said this.
Yes, love it. Yeah, I'm gonna share this with other moms next time too. This mom who does this, and it's wonderful.
Yes, thanks. Yeah. Okay, so we have come to the end of the session, and this is one question that I always ask all the guests, because nonetheless this is still a math group, and we have many parents with young kids. Yeah, and especially the P6s, they are feeling very high stress, and with high stress, mom also feeling very stressed at home. Yeah. So now you know all these techniques like to calm yourself down and to relax. Yeah. If you are to go back to your 12-year-old self, yeah, what will you tell your 12-year-old self when it comes to preparing for the PSLE, which is thought to be the big exam, the only exam in most 12 years olds. Yeah. So what will you tell yourself?
That's interesting because I didn't remember too much of my PSLE except that I was studying in the playground.
Oh, really?
I don't know, am I that old? I hope I'm not too old, right? But
you're still young.
During my time, I never actually PSLE. I think is only quite to me recent that people started emphasizing. I think during my time, I didn't realize that I was having a PSLE exam that was a big exam, honestly. So I didn't, I don't think I was particularly stressed or worried. But okay, maybe I could have gotten a bit more help. I think I was, studying a lot on my own. But I mean, during that time, we didn't know about tutors or anything. It was always self-study. So I didn't know what I was supposed to study. I just took the textbook and I just flipped. And I remember being at the playground with some friends, and yeah, they were also, running around, and that's all I remembered. Yeah, but I think I would have loved some more guidance actually. I mean, I didn't do badly, but yeah, I think it would have, I don't know. Yeah. Not the model answer you want, I think.
No, it's fine. And I think why I ask most of the guests is because in the eyes of most 12 years old and also their parents, while being in the situation right now, to them it's like, oh, this is the big thing, so I need to do well. Yeah, so I think it may be helpful for parents to hear from other parents, their perspective. And sometimes when I heard from most of you when you share is PSLE is not the kind of like big thing when you think back. It's just like a very small part of a memory. Yeah, and some of us may not even know what we are doing when we're 12 years old. Yeah.
So I just want to share something a little bit further.
Yes, please.
So yes, as you said, right, PSLE is just a very small part. And really, when you apply for a job in future, which is what I always tell my kids, nobody's going to ask you for a PSLE score. And I just told a friend 2 days ago, when I had to apply for P1 registration for my daughter 6 years ago, I couldn't find my PSLE cert. So I actually had to go to MB. So it doesn't stop you from survival, finding a good, progressing in your career, not to even have the PSLE cert, because they don't even care. Nobody's going to ask about your marks. On the other hand, since I had my older child, just did her PSLE last year, I'd like to share a really nice experience we had. So we came out of PSLE really positively. And one thing I did was we really focused on the intention rather than the expectation. So during the PSLE period, it was not, she studied really well, and she was very self-motivated, so she was doing all her studying. But what I did and her sister did was we really created a really nice environment for her to study. Wow. Like the sister was doing a lot of snacks for her.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, and so because she's, they're growing and they're always hungry, and when you're stressed, you get hungry too. So her job was to, create snacks, and really, really nice special snacks. And my job was just to ensure that she was in a good state of mind. And if she needed to, buy something, stationery, or she needed some help with marking, so I became secretary and not her work. Right? I don't usually do that on a normal day. But yeah, it's just to help her save time, or even simple things like, Mom, can you please punch holes for me? I mean, she can do it herself, but I think at that point, we just came together to support her. So she went through it, like, it was a great experience. I think that was the best experience she had in her primary school. The best memory for her was that her family came together to support her, and even her dad was really, really supportive as well. That's the memory she has of PSLE, not so much of her results, her studying, and she did pretty well, I think, but it was that whole experience. So maybe think about creating the experience. What would you like your child to get out of this major exam at the end of the day, what would they remember? Is it that stressful time, or is it that wonderful experience where you were there for them, creating those memories together? So little surprises, even like the sister would sneak little notes into her pencil case,
sweet.
like, like all the best, or keep going, keep studying hard. And I think she felt very warm. So she could rest well, she slept well, she studied well because she was so well supported.
There's a belief that I have is for every child, for every adult, we also have our own emotional tank, and I think it's very important for that to be filled up.
Yes.
And for what you're sharing is, I think everyone comes together to do different things to fill up the emotional tank of the child. Yeah. So in the end, the child will do well and also feel confidence about himself or her or herself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, just before we end, actually we have a question from one of the parents. Is it okay that I can take one question?
Sure.
Okay, it's from Linda, and she asked, is it normal that 12-year-old students will not want you to interfere in their work?
I think it depends on the child. So for my child, she was very independent. I didn't look into her work since 10. And actually, like sometimes she asks me something and then she'll say, no, my teacher didn't say this. My teacher taught it a different way. So yeah, I think depending on the child, like my child is quite independent learner. They would rather do on their own than to have me interfere and tell them exactly what they want to do, or how to do it, like even planning their studies. If I were to say, like, you have to do 5 pages here, I think she might not want to do it. She might say, no, I want to do 10, or I don't know, or like, I don't want to do this section, I need to do that section because that's where I'm weak at, or something like this. On the other hand, my 10-year-old, I think she prefers me to help her along, although I always tell you do it, you plan. So we do a 3-2-1 in the home. My kids pick out 3 things they want to do at the first part of the day, 2 things in the second half of the day, and then 1 thing in the evening. And they write their own schedules every day, and they will tick it off. So when they've done it, so every day, and the 3-2-1 doesn't have to be like something related to academic. It could be as simple as taking a bath, because maybe some kids don't like to bathe. Then that should be one item they do. But it empowers them, to do certain things, to kind of manage their own day and time. It could be, one item could be also rest or play. So going out in the garden or having some minutes on, I don't know, Roblox or whatever. But at least majority of it would be things like maybe revision, completing my homework, having attending a class or something. And at least they have that down, so they know what they have to complete in the day. And I think between parent and child, so my child does that, my 10-year-old does that. She shows it to me and like, okay, yeah, I think this is a good one that you've done today. So there is kind of a to and fro, I think. And maybe if you find that, the child hasn't put in very good choices for their 3-2-1 plan, then maybe you can give some suggestion. And then it doesn't feel like you told them everything and planned everything. It still feels like they have some autonomy, but you're guiding them and giving them better suggestions so that they can, plan out their day. So perhaps try that.
I see. Yeah, and it sounds to me that from how you share what you did with your kid, the basis of all of this is trust. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's a lot of trust between you and your girls. Yeah. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just because you are their mother, but because you want to build this kind of family culture that there's trust among the family members.
So I have to say that, trust is very important, but also giving them the opportunity to show trust. My older kid has no problems with self-control. My younger kid actually has problems with self-control. So I have to say very openly that if she has a computer in front of her, she would either switch to Roblox or switch to and she would be doing her work, but it was still being fun. And I think I don't really encourage that, because I find that you can't concentrate if you're doing 2 things at one time. And so we have been talking about the trust issue, because to me is I giving you a lot of trust by allowing you to keep your device in front of you. But if we agree that we will not go on YouTube today until you finish your work and you're doing it, it means that I have to take a next step to help you. And that could be I have to take your laptop or device and keep it away until you finish your work, and then I can give it back to you. So I think helping to build that trust is also important. And if that trust is sort of not, not broken or something, then I think we have to do some small steps that you both agree on, so that we can build that trust, further and better and stronger. So I have had to do that to her, not just once, but maybe twice. But after that, they learn to, okay, I'm gonna, I want to have that trust with my mom, so I'm gonna try harder. I'm gonna build that self-control, and it's improving. I would say it's improving. So small little steps.
Great. Yeah. And Linda said thanks, and I think that you have answered her question. Okay, so to end off this session, because I know that we have exceeded the time by 20 minutes. Yeah, so actually we should have done 1 hour because you have so much content to share. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So for parents who wants to contact you or they have some questions, where can they find you?
So you can connect with me on my Hardy Moms page, but I would really like to invite you to join the COVID-19 group for working moms. Oh, and also I have a guide that I'm very happy to share. Maybe John can put that link up.
Yes, I pasted this inside the comment.
Okay. Yeah. So that guide will, in that guide, I share the basic breathing technique that everyone should know that can help them reduce stress. Also, Oprah Winfrey's secret to positivity, how to trigger relaxation in your body on demand, and some of the prerequisites to managing your emotions and how to set your day up for success. So I think it all supports, reducing stress for parents.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. So anything else to add in before we end off?
I think it's good. I think everyone has stress, so be gentle on yourself. I think the difference is how you get out of it, and you will be able to get out of it. So take it easy.
Okay, so thanks, Sophie. Really nice to hear from you. And I think there are a lot of gems being shared. And I think for our parents who are still online with us right now, it is very important to pick up one that suits you. Yeah, probably if you think that going out for a walk releases your stress, go for a walk. If you think that you need to talk to your husband or your spouse, and if you feel that one is the key step for you, find an opportunity to sound to them that you need more support. Okay, so with this, thanks Sophie for your time, and I also learned a lot from you, because I think being a father of 3, I'm pretty stressed out as well. So I must remember to learn how to breathe.
Yes.
Yeah, and probably I need to remind someone else to remind me to breathe when I'm angry. Probably that will be my first step.
You can build this thing like your child, build something and put it in front of you and just blow. I used to just take like a tissue in front of my daughter and like, okay, blow. So maybe your daughter can do that to you.
Yeah. What I was thinking is, when I'm stressed out, I think that the scary part is I don't know that I'm stressed out. Yeah. So I'm thinking who should I choose among my 3 girls to remind me to breathe without being scolded by me.
The youngest one.
The youngest one. The youngest one, every day she'll make me stress first. Yeah.
Maybe the oldest.
All right. So thanks so much. Please stay online. I just want to connect with you after I stop the streaming to Facebook. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, John. Bye, everyone.
Yeah. So please hang around for a while. Okay. Okay. Stop.